Oftentimes, when we're trying to evangelize and give the message of the gospel to somebody that doesn't believe in it or doesn't hold it, we have to tread carefully in debating and engaging with this person. Sometimes Catholics can fall into casting straw man arguments at people because, not understanding, look, in order to give this truth, we have to build a bridge so that across which truth can pass. Dennett, the philosopher, which I recently blogged about, he talks about 4 methods, steps for building this relationship. And the first and the most important is you should attempt to understand the other person's position clearly, study it in order to be able to clearly understand who you're debating. Secondly, you have to list all of the ways that you agree with the other person. For example, if you're debating a Hindu, there are many aspects that are common to Christianity, and so you can agree on the various aspects that we agree on first in order to find common ground. Thirdly, you have to recognize the way that the other person has taught you things. I've learned because I've worked in business for 25 years, worked with many different people across many different countries. I've learned a lot from other people, other cultures, that has taught me a lot and can really enhance how you can bring the gospel into these people's lives. And once you've built this relationship of recognizing what is good, and only at that moment can you rebuke and criticize their position after a process of gaining their trust. Sometimes in our commentaries, I've seen Catholic podcasters say that Hinduism is the worship of demons. And while there could be an element of truth, if you were to cast that at a Hindu that you first met, you have probably lost them. It's like the gospel has fell on the floor. When St. Paul went to Athens and he studied where he was going, and he goes to the temple of the unknown God, he was able to speak into that culture. He was able to find common ground. In the writings of Maria Valtorta, this Italian mystic, you have an interesting study there. Because on the one hand, if you accept that this woman is invented this whole story, well, she had an incredible imagination on just this point. How do we engage the other person that we meet? It's a fascinating insight into this whole debating system that we're trying to do. And I give you one small example. Christ meets this character. He's called Felix, who he renames as John of Endor. This man who had been a murderer, his wife had abandoned him. He had lived a very embittered life. He'd been in prison and been freed, etc., etc. And he lives alone in Endor. And the discussion begins, and this man doesn't know who Jesus is, and Christ is trying to teach him how to love. And he gets very cynical. Until he realizes that Christ is the Messiah. And then something changes, and Christ says, look, you're not all bad. You did good things. You cured. You can look at, we can look at a situation and only focus on what is bad in the situation, or try to redeem what is good in the situation. And I suppose in our Irish culture at this moment in time, we have a changing demographic. A lot of immigration. We have a society that is losing connection to its Catholic faith, and we're faced with an opportunity. And what is the opportunity at this moment in time? Is we need to be steel men in our debating, steel men in our blogging, to offer, to understand the other person that might be looking at us, and to speak into them. What is the fulfillment of all desire, which is the title of Ralph Martin's book. The truth of union with God, the truth that Christ is trying to do. Christ moved very carefully. He moved and he spoke into the culture of the time to give a new message, the good news, the gospel. And he did it with tact, with careful listening, and we've a lot to learn. And I think it's fascinating if you read Maria Valtorta's writings. And the debate will go on. Is it a literary work of this Italian mystic, Italian woman, complete invention, or is it divinely inspired, which I believe it is? Either or, there is there's great knowledge there on how we can engage others. Dan Burke, who founded Apostoli Viae in America, he did an amazing video on which he speaks about, love is the bridge across which truth can pass. And we need to learn to love the other enough to understand them, to listen to them, to thank them for maybe something we've learned to them, and then give them what we believe to be the truth, to debate with them, be able to wrestle in friendship with the truth. If we proceed the way we're proceeding at the moment, which is polarization, Muslims are all this, Muslims are all that, all the Muslims coming into Ireland are rapists, and this, these slogans, these straw men that one side might agree with, and we say, yeah, that's true, but is it the truth? Is that the truth? Is that really the truth? So many Muslim countries, you're not allowed to evangelize. You're not allowed to preach the gospel. If you go to Saudi Arabia, you can't stand on the street with a Bible and preach the gospel. We're free to do that in Ireland. Do Catholics do that? No. And yet we have an opportunity here to evangelize. We have an opportunity to engage. We're still a free society. And I suppose this is kind of what I'm trying to launch out there. People would like Ireland to be like in the 1800s, everybody's Catholic and so forth, and it's all like this. Maybe God is giving us an opportunity now, an unexpected opportunity outside our comfort zones, to engage in a way that hasn't been done for many centuries. And in order to engage with somebody that doesn't share our faith, you need to know their faith. You need to study it. You need to understand and to be able to speak into that. And you need to be capable of recognizing what is good, true, and beautiful in their position, but also give them their good, their truth, and their beauty of our faith. And this requires steel men debating, steel men preparation. And this is where we need to go in our Catholic commentary, in our Catholic blogging and so forth. Because otherwise, if we leave to polarizations, there's no dialogue, there's no debate in polarizations. All there are is verbal petrol bombs being thrown at others on blogs, on sites and stuff like that. You're this and you're that, and that's simply it. What needs is union with God, is true holiness. And this is what God is doing at this moment in time in Europe, which used to have a strong faith. He's testing us. He's really challenging us. And so this is the challenge that I set out to the Catholic world that wants to evangelize. You need to be prepared. And you need to be able to acknowledge what is good, and to befriend, and to be able to dialogue, and ultimately to be able to lead souls to a discipleship with Christ, not to your position, not to you. We're not called to lead others to live their faith through us. We're called to lead them to Christ, which is an incredible encounter. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments, but it's just something that has been on my mind. And, I'm very passionate about this, but, we see this increasing polarization. We have an opportunity here, a great opportunity. If you really believe that the Catholic faith is the one true faith, if you really believe that Christ is real, God is real, and he came to give this incredible message of the gospel to the world, then sometimes you let God do the impossible and you do the possible. And it's possible for you to engage with love, to allow God do the impossible in the soul of the other person, in their mind and in their heart, to change. Anyway, God bless you. Take care. Bye-bye.